I didn't ruin my relationship. Loyalty did. That's what I tell myself when the refrigerator hum is the only thing answering me back in an apartment that looks like a staged crime scene. Couch missing, nail holes like freckles, echoes where laughter used to sit. People act like an empty apartment means you did something wrong. No. Empty means I chose the right person too many times and they weren't who I thought. If that makes me the villain, fine. But I was loyal. I was consistent. I defended the one person who consistently showed up for me. Everyone keeps tossing the word controlling at my ex like it's an insult, but I used it first, and I meant it like a diagnosis. He questioned my boundaries, he policed my texts, he had gut feelings. Congratulations, dude, your gut feelings were loud. So are truck horns. That doesn't mean they're profound. What no one adds is that I've dated the jealous type before. The one who counted my drinks, who scrolled through my followers, who said, I trust you, I just don't trust other men. Classic. So when my boyfriend Ben started doing a diet version of that, yeah, I snapped shut like a pill bottle. I wasn't doing another tour of duty proving basic innocence. Enter Liam, my best friend, my human cheat code. He's the guy who holds my purse without turning it into a personality. We met at a trivia night 2 apartments ago when my team collapsed under famous bridges, and he leaned over from the next table and whispered, Tacoma Narrows, and winked like he had just saved my dog from a burning building. He has charismatic bones, the kind of smile that makes bar staff remember your order, and bouncers let you cut the line just this once. People warn you about guys like Liam, and then he remembers your younger brother's birthday and helps you build an IKEA shelf while roasting your hex key technique, and suddenly you're like, what warning? The first month I knew him, Liam did small, surgical favors that feel like love without any of the mess. Drive me to urgent care when I had that ridiculous chili oil eye situation, pretend to be my husband on the phone to cancel a gym membership, carry a bag of potting soil up 5 flights because you're not training to be a Sherpa babe. He became a habit, one of those healthy-ish ones like vitamin gummies. If I showed up anywhere alone, people asked, where's Liam? Like we were a two-pack. It wasn't romantic, it was a relief. He never asked for anything big back, just my trust, which I gave because I'm not a monster. Ben arrived months later, a quieter kind of bright. Teacher smile, calloused hands, guitar, not a red flag, and the patience to listen to me recite the plot of an entire true crime podcast before coffee. He met Liam on a Sunday at the farmer's market. They shook hands. Liam said finally, like he had been holding the line for me. Ben told me later he liked him, seems protective. I took that as a green light. I didn't see the fine print. The first hairline crack came packaged as a joke. We were at Montclair assembling a bar cart. Ben handed me the tiny screwdriver. Liam clucked it away and said, don't let her build. She eyeballs 90 degrees like it owes her money. He said it with that laugh everyone melts for. I laughed too because it's true. I'm not precise. Ben half smiled. It was nothing. Except later when Ben poured wine and said, I think sometimes Liam talks over you, like it was an observation, not an accusation. I felt the acid climb. I said, he knows me. It's a bit. Ben nodded. If you say so. If I say so, I repeated, because that's what I do. I hear a neutral sentence and bend it into wire until it cut me. He kissed my forehead and we watched a movie. I held his hand and thought, I'm not going to be punished for having a best friend. That's what jealous boyfriends do. Ben wasn't jealous. He was just new. Liam has a way of narrating me back to myself better than I can. There's this day I went silent because my boss humiliated me about a typo in a deck, and I was chewing ice to keep from crying. Liam grabbed my phone, opened the Notes app, and wrote, You make people nervous when you speak with certainty. They're not used to women who do that. He handed it back and said, Read when you're ready. Tell me that wouldn't solder itself to your ribs. Ben would have empathized. Liam Lee framed. So yeah, when the two of them started to conflict, I chose the person who wired my spine straight. I'll admit this part because I promised to tell it straight. When Ben stayed over, sometimes Liam FaceTimed me at midnight just to check in, and I answered. Is that wrong? Maybe. But also, maybe your girlfriend having strong friendships is not a threat unless you're insecure. That's the defensive voice in my head, the one that sounds like me, but a bit more sure. The second hairline crack was dumber and louder. Kayla invited us to her rooftop, those twinkle light parties where the ice is always melting too fast and everyone performs adulthood. Ben came, Liam came later, wearing a shirt like summer had been cut into fabric. He hugged me first, lifted me off the ground like a movie. Ben laughed, but his eyes tracked. Later, when I was refilling chips, he leaned in and said, he could just hug you less. I said, it's called affection. He said, it's called theater. He said it, smiling, because he thought that softened it. I told Liam, because I tell Liam everything. He did that sympathetic wince. Aw, poor guy, I'll tone it down. And then, God help me, he touched my hair and said, you just make people territorial. It didn't feel like flirting. It felt like being understood. Here's something I didn't clock until later. When people started saying Liam and blank to invite me places, Ben wasn't automatically included. Couple energy belonged to me and my best friend. Ben was +1 optional. That's not nothing. But I was busy being a good girlfriend in other ways. Hosting, cooking, doing birthday surprises, leaving notes in his guitar case. Meanwhile, Liam handled logistics. He returned the dress I hated. He negotiated with my landlord about the AC. He got our group a reservation that's like miracles only. It's not that I chose Liam over Ben. It's that life was a group project and Liam actually did the slides. The night it really started, the catalyst that keeps repeating in my head like a caption, I'm going to describe precisely because people love to tell me I'm exaggerating. We were at Kayla's rooftop again. Different playlist, same string lights. I wore the green dress Ben likes because it looks like a great decision. Ben had his hand on my waist, Liam was across from us telling a story about the trivia team, and people were leaned in like plants towards sun. I felt lucky. I did. I remember thinking, this is balance. This is what they told me I couldn't have, the boyfriend and the best friend, the safety and the spark. Then Kayla made a joke about how Ben and I were finally stable, which, okay, rude, but she's known me since I was 19. And Liam raised his glass to stability. He said the word like a dare. He looked directly at Ben, the way boys do when they're measuring fences, and smirked. Don't worry, he added, still looking at Ben. I keep her out of trouble. Do you? Ben asked. Calm voice, teacher voice. I felt it in my stomach. Liam shrugged, light as paper. Someone has to. I laughed because that's my job when things get weird. Make it lighter, make it cute. He means I'm chaos, I said, and leaned into Ben like punctuation. Ben's hand tightened. Liam's eyes flicked to that, clocking it like a ref. After that, little things accumulated like lint in the corners. Ben's text got shorter at night when I was out with the group. Liam got chattier in the group chat, posting memes about protective boyfriends that were obviously not about Ben, except of course they were. I squinted at the captions and told myself, people need to toughen up. If we can't laugh, we'll die of something worse. And if Ben couldn't handle it, if he needed me to choose, then maybe he wasn't who I thought, right? That's what I fed myself while I arranged oranges in a bowl and pretended it was domesticity. I know exactly what you're thinking. I wanted the drama. But honestly, I wanted quiet. I wanted to stop walking on eggshells that weren't even there yet. I wanted a life where I didn't have to preemptively apologize for having a history that included jealous men, where my best friend could be my best friend without turning my boyfriend into a warden. So when Ben asked, can we talk about Liam? I said, we can talk about your tone, because I am sometimes more in love with a principle than a person. There's a photo from that rooftop night. Kayla posted it, then took it down for vibes, which is rich. I'm in the middle, laughing at something off camera. Ben's behind me with a soft face. Liam is to my right, eyes on the lens, smirk turned down just enough to read his concern. People commented, trio goals. I read it like a blessing. Maybe if I had read it like a warning, we wouldn't be here. But we are here. I'm in a hollowed-out apartment telling a story that makes me sound like a victim and a villain at the same time. Maybe both can be true. Maybe that's why I stayed. And if you're wondering when it stopped being jokes and started being a choice, it was the next time we saw each other. The night the music was louder, the drink sweeter, and Liam lifted his glass toward Ben, leaned in close, and said something that made the whole table go quiet.
The thing about loud music is you think it's a shield. Like the bass will swallow any wrong sentence, the laughter will camouflage the meaning. But that night, it was the opposite. The noise seemed to drop out for just long enough for Liam's words to hang there. We were all at Max's birthday. Think sticky bar tables, people yelling drink orders over each other, cheap paper crowns sliding down foreheads. Ben was leaning back in his chair, one arm on me, when Liam leaned across the table and, with a casual smile, said, "I mean, if she were mine, I wouldn't let her out of my sight either." My laugh was automatic, defensive, because what else do you do? I even did that stupid thing where I swatted his arm like, "Oh, stop." Except no one was laughing with me. Kayla glanced at Ben, then took a long sip of her drink, like she wanted to be invisible. Ben's jaw ticked, just once, before he smiled and said, "Good thing she's not yours then." It wasn't loud. He didn't raise his voice, but the air shifted. Liam's smile didn't crack, it just sharpened. And I felt like I was the one in trouble. I excused myself to check the bathroom and dragged Ben with me toward the back hallway. "Seriously?" I hissed. "You're going to make it awkward?" "I made it awkward?" His voice was still level, but his eyes weren't. "He basically told me you're not trustworthy." "That's not what he meant," I shot back. "He was teasing." "He was marking territory." I rolled my eyes so hard it almost hurt. "Here we go again. You're doing the thing." "What thing?" "The jealous boyfriend who can't handle my friends thing. I've been here, Ben. I'm not doing it again." He just shook his head, looking at me like I'd already picked a side. And maybe I had. When we got back to the table, Liam was holding court, telling some ridiculous story about the time we almost missed a flight because I got into an argument with an airport security guy over a water bottle. Everyone was laughing. Ben smiled along, but his hand wasn't on my back anymore. After that night, things shifted in these small, deniable ways. Ben started skipping some group hangouts, said he was too tired or had grading to do. Liam started making more just us plans. Brunch on Sunday, hitting a new speakeasy for research. Research for what, I still don't know. If Ben was around, Liam found little ways to exclude him from conversations, inside jokes, callbacks to old stories he wasn't part of. And I let it happen, because it felt good being the one in on the joke. One Saturday, Ben tried to bring it up again. We were cooking dinner, and he said, "I don't think Liam likes me." "He likes you fine," I said, not looking up from the cutting board. "No, he tolerates me. That's different." I sighed. "Why is it so important that my friends like you? Do all your friends love me?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Well, congratulations," I muttered. He put the knife down. "I'm not saying you can't be friends with him. I'm saying he's in your life in a way that doesn't leave much space for me." "Maybe you should take more space then," I snapped. He just shook his head, looking at me like I'd already picked a side. And maybe I had. One Saturday, Liam and I ended up at a small house party. Ben had an early morning meeting, so I went without him. The night was fun, loud, easy, until someone put on slow R&B and Liam pulled me into a mock prom pose for a photo. His arm was firm around my waist, his chin almost on my shoulder, and I swear I felt him pause just a second too long before letting go. My heart jumped. I'd told myself it was the alcohol. Then Monday morning, Ben sent me a screenshot. It was from Kayla, the picture, captioned, "Your girl's got options." I stared at it for a full minute before replying, "That's a joke." Ben didn't answer. That was the start of the frost. He didn't break up with me right away. He just pulled back, stopped asking about my day, stopped reaching for my hand first. Liam noticed, of course. "Trouble in paradise?" he asked one night when I called him after Ben bailed on dinner. "Not really," I said. "He's just busy." "Busy judging you for having friends." I laughed because it was easier than agreeing out loud. 2 weeks later, it all blew up. We were at a friend's engagement party. Ben came, Liam came, the whole group was there.
Everyone was drinking, dancing, yelling over music. At one point, I went to grab more champagne, and when I came back, Liam was at our table, leaning in close to Ben. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see Ben's face. Tight, pale, eyes locked on him. I slid into my seat just as Ben pushed his chair back and said, "We're leaving." "What? Why?" "Ask your friend." He walked toward the door. I turned to Liam and said, "What did you say?" He gave me that half smile. "Just told him he should relax, that you're loyal to a fault." "That's good?" I said, unsure. "Sure, if you believe it," he said, sipping his drink. I left with Ben, but he didn't speak the whole ride home. When we got inside, he finally said, "I can't do this. I'm done." It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. He just ended it. I tried to argue, to tell him he was overreacting, that Liam was harmless. He said, "You're either blind or you're choosing not to see it." And then he was gone. Liam was the first person I called. He came over with takeout and a bottle of wine, telling me I was better off with someone who didn't get me. I wanted to believe him. I did. The thing is, I might have if not for what happened next. 3 days later, Kayla sent me another screenshot. This time it wasn't a photo, it was a text thread between her and Liam. In it, he was talking about me and about Ben, and one message sitting right there in blue bubble read, "She'll be single soon. Just give it time."
At first, I didn't believe it. My brain just refused to process the words in that screenshot like they were meant for me. "She'll be single soon. Just give it time." It didn't match the Liam I knew, the one who remembered my work deadlines and texted me, "Drink water," when I was hungover. It looked like something a stranger would say. Worse, it looked like something calculated. I stared at it so long, Kayla finally sent a follow-up. "I thought you should know." My hands were shaking when I called her. "Where did you get that?" "It's from when he was venting to me. This was like a month ago. I didn't send it before because I didn't want to stir shit. But after Saturday, I feel like you need to see what he's about." Saturday? The night Ben ended it. The night Liam comforted me with takeout and wine. My stomach turned. "Kayla, you're reading it wrong," I said automatically. "He meant he was worried about Ben or that we weren't working out." She cut me off. "Babe, no. He was predicting it. Like he was waiting for it to happen, waiting for you to be single." I laughed. Too loud, too fake. "That's ridiculous. Liam doesn't what? Flirt with you? Undermine your relationships? Make little comments about how guys don't deserve you? You're too smart not to see it." I told her I had to go and hung up. My apartment felt like it had shrunk in on itself, the walls leaning in. I didn't text Liam right away. I needed to catch my breath. But I also couldn't not talk to him. When I finally called, he answered on the first ring. "Hey, trouble." "Don't call me that," I said sharper than I meant to. He paused. "Okay, rough day." "I saw something from Kayla, a screenshot." "Oh, here we go." His voice flattened. "She said you told her I'd be single soon." Silence, just for a beat. And? Liam, what the hell?" He sighed like I was the one being difficult. "I said that because I could see it coming, not because I wanted it. Ben was pulling away and you were miserable. Don't make it into a conspiracy." "You think that's normal? To tell my friend you're waiting for me to be single?" "I didn't say waiting. That's Kayla twisting it." His voice warmed back into the charming register he used when smoothing over bartenders and bouncers. "Look, if you're upset, I'm sorry. But you're doing the thing where you take the least charitable interpretation and run with it." I hated that he might be right. I hated that he knew I hated it. "Kayla's just jealous, you know."
She's been salty ever since you and I got close. You know that. I wanted to believe him. It was easier than believing my best friend had been playing a long game with my love life. And maybe I would have dropped it, if not for what happened at Kayla's brunch the next weekend. I wasn't planning on going, my social battery was already fried. But Liam texted me, "I'll pick you up. You shouldn't be hiding from people." I let him. When we walked in, conversation dimmed. Not all the way, but enough for me to feel it. Kayla smiled tight. 2 other friends avoided my eyes. We sat, ordered mimosas, tried to act normal. Halfway through, Liam excused himself to take a call. The moment he was gone, Kayla leaned across the table. "You're still hanging out with him?" "Obviously," I said. She gave this little laugh that wasn't funny. "Well, don't say we didn't warn you." "We?" "Me, Tasha, even Max. You think we haven't seen the way he talks about you when you're not there?" I felt heat climb up my neck. "You're all imagining it." "Are we imagining that he told Max you'd wake up eventually?" "About what?" She just looked at me like the answer was obvious. Before I could push, Liam came back, dropped into his seat and slung an arm around my chair like nothing happened. I forced a smile, but my skin was crawling. That night, I replayed every conversation from the past 6 months, looking for hidden motives. The time he joked that Ben was boring. The time he said I deserved someone who could keep up with me. The way he'd insert himself into my plans before I'd even invited him. It was all starting to line up. And I hated it, because if it was true, it meant that I'd been defending him at the expense of my relationship. By Monday, I decided I needed space. I didn't tell him that directly, I just stopped replying so fast. I skipped his calls. I told him I was busy when he suggested a late-night drink. It lasted 4 days. Then he showed up at my building. He was leaning against the stairwell railing, holding 2 coffees. "Your buzzer's broken," he said with a grin. "It's not," I said. He held out the coffee. "Then you were screening me." I crossed my arms. Maybe I needed some time. He didn't flinch. From me? Or from what Kayla's been whispering in your ear? I took the coffee just to have something in my hands. From everything. "That's not how you used to talk to me. You're letting them get in your head. I've always had your back and you know it." I almost cracked then. Almost apologized. But something in his eyes, the way he was watching my reaction, kept me quiet. He stayed leaning on the railing while I sipped coffee I didn't want. "You don't have to trust them," he said finally. "You just have to remember who was here before they decided they didn't like me and who's still here now." It should have sounded comforting. Instead, it felt like a hook sliding under my skin. That week, I tried to split my time, see my other friends without him, then see him separately. It didn't work. He'd show up at bars he just happened to be near. He'd text me mid-dinner with someone else. "Miss you." And then came the invite. Max's going-away party. Everyone would be there, Ben included. I didn't want to go, but skipping it would be obvious. When I walked in, I saw Ben across the room. My stomach flipped. Liam was next to me immediately, arm brushing mine like he was staking a claim. "You okay?" he murmured. I nodded, scanning for an escape route. Halfway through the night, Kayla caught me alone near the kitchen. "If you want the full truth, check your DMs," and then melted back into the crowd before I could answer. My phone buzzed. Instagram notification. Message request from a name I didn't recognize. I opened it and froze. It was a video. Grainy, phone shot, clearly at some party I hadn't been to. Liam leaning in close to someone, Ben. Talking low, smiling, clapping him on the shoulder, and then clear as day, Liam's voice. "Don't worry, man. She'll come around. She always does."
I must have replayed that clip 10 times in a row. The words didn't change, but the meaning shifted each time I heard them. She'll come around. She always does. At first, I thought it was about me and Ben, like Liam was predicting I'd run back to my ex, which made no sense because he'd been the one urging me to move on. Then I thought maybe it was about me caving to Liam himself, which, hit closer to the bone. The video was time-stamped 3 weeks before the breakup. I hadn't even noticed anything was wrong then, but apparently Liam was already pulling side conversations with my boyfriend at parties. I had questions about what else he'd said, about how long this had been going on, but there was only one person who could answer them. I found him in Max's living room, holding court as usual. His laugh rose over the music, magnetic as ever. I stood in the doorway until he noticed me. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, eyes narrowing like he already knew the answer. "Need to talk, now." He followed me out to the stairwell, where the thump of bass became a distant pulse. I held up my phone. "Why were you telling Ben I'd come around?" Liam barely glanced at the screen. "That's out of context. There's video, Liam. What's the context? You giving him some pep talk about my relationship status?" He rubbed his jaw, buying time. "We were talking about you calming down after arguments. He said you could hold a grudge. I said you always come around. It wasn't a big deal." "You made it sound like you knew how I'd react before I did." "Maybe because I do," he said. And there it was, that quiet, confident tone that could sound like care or like control, depending on where you were standing. "I've known you longer than any of these people. I know how you work." It was meant to settle me, but it made my skin prickle. "What else have you told him about me?" "Nothing that wasn't true." "Why? Did he finally start talking about me behind my back?" "This isn't about Ben anymore." "Sure it is, because if it weren't for him, you wouldn't be questioning me like this." I could feel the fight pulling me in like quicksand. I'd been here before. With him, arguments that ended with me apologizing for being sensitive or paranoid. But tonight, with that video still burning in my hand, I held my ground. Maybe I just don't like finding out my best friend is having private conversations about me with my boyfriend. And maybe I don't like finding out my best friend is believing whatever Kayla drops in her lap, he shot back. "You think she doesn't have an angle? She's been low-key competing with you since the day you met." I wanted to deny it, but Liam was already pulling open the stairwell door. "You'll figure it out," he said over his shoulder and went back into the party. I stayed in that stairwell a long time, scrolling through my DMs, re-watching the clip until the battery warning flashed. Every rewatch made me feel less certain about what I was seeing. Was it manipulation, or was I letting Kayla plant seeds that were already growing in me? The rest of the party blurred. I didn't talk to Ben. I didn't talk to Liam either. When I left, I slipped out without saying goodbye. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Liam. "Hope you got home safe. Call me when you've had coffee and stopped being mad." No apology, just the assumption that whatever this was, I'd get over it. And the sick part, a piece of me wanted to, because without Liam, the weekend stretched out blank and quiet. I'd gotten used to someone always in my corner, always ready to drop plans, always the first call. But I didn't call him. I went to brunch with Kayla instead, thinking maybe it was time to compare notes. She was already 2 mimosas in when I got there. "So, did you talk to him?" Kind of," I said, stirring my coffee. "He says it's all out of context, that you're trying to turn me against him." "Classic. He told me you'd say that." I frowned. "When?" "A while ago. He said if I ever started meddling, you would accuse me of having an agenda, which is, by the way, hilarious, because my only agenda is you not ending up completely isolated." "Isolated? Look around. Who do you hang out with besides him? Half the group doesn't even invite you unless they know Liam's coming. That's not an accident." I hated that she might be right.
I also hated the idea that Liam had predicted my reaction before I even had one. It made me feel scripted. After brunch, I decided to do something I hadn't in months. Make plans without Liam. I texted Max and Tasha about grabbing drinks midweek. They both said yes. Then, an hour later, Max canceled, said something came up. Tasha did the same minutes after. It could have been coincidence, but then Tasha added, "Rain check. Liam said you guys might be sorting stuff out and he didn't want to make it weird." That's when the hair on the back of my neck stood up. He wasn't just in my social life. He was curating it. I didn't text him. I didn't even confront him. I just sat in my empty apartment scrolling through our old messages, looking for signs. And I found them. Little digs at other friends, casual reminders of times he'd been the only one there, throwaway lines about how some people don't deserve your energy. That night, Ben's name lit up my phone. My pulse kicked. I hadn't heard from him since the breakup. "Can we talk?" I said yes before I could overthink it. We met at a quiet coffee shop the next day. He looked tired, older somehow. "I'm not here to rehash, but I think you should know something." I waited. Liam came to see me after we broke up. My stomach flipped. "Why?" He said he was worried about you, that you were spinning out. I shook my head. "That's not..." And he said the reason we didn't work out is because I couldn't handle your history with men. I went cold. What does that even mean? Ben's jaw tightened. "I think you know." I did. Liam had turned my past, my exes, my bad breakups, into a neat little narrative about why I was better off with people like him around. I didn't want to get involved, but if he's still in your ear, you should be careful. He's not who you think. I left that coffee shop feeling like the floor was shifting under me, because now it wasn't just Kayla saying it. It was Ben, who had no reason to lie. That night, I finally decided to confront Liam for real. No sidestepping, no letting him charm his way out. I texted, "We need to talk. In person." He replied instantly, "Come over. I'll make dinner." When I got to his place, the table was already set. Candlelight, wine poured, my favorite pasta, like nothing was wrong. I sat down. "You've been talking to Ben and Tasha and who knows who else about me." He didn't deny it. He just smiled, slow and steady. "Of course I have. That's what friends do. They check in. They protect." "Protect from what?" I asked. His smile didn't move, but his eyes sharpened. "From people who don't understand you the way I do." And then, as I stared at him across the table, my phone buzzed. A new message from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. It was a photo, me and Liam, at Max's birthday. His hand was on my waist, my head tilted toward him. The caption read, "Sure, he's just your friend." I stared at the photo so long that Liam finally leaned forward. "What is it?" he asked, voice smooth but alert, like he was deciding whether to be concerned or amused. I set the phone down between us. "This." He glanced at it, shrugged. "We've been photographed together 100 times. "Not like this," I said. "Not with that caption." He didn't even ask who sent it. Someone's obviously trying to stir the pot, which is exactly what I've been warning you about. I picked the phone back up. "You don't even want to know who?" "I don't need to know," he said easily, "because whoever it is, their goal is the same, to make you doubt the only person who's actually had your back." There it was again, that pivot, turning everything back into a referendum on loyalty. It was so familiar, I almost fell for it. Almost. "I'm not doubting you because of them," I said. "I'm doubting you because of you. Because I keep finding out you're having conversations about me, sending messages, dropping hints." "Hints?" he interrupted. "You mean defending you when you're not around? Filling in gaps so people don't get the wrong idea?" My laugh was sharp. "Or giving them ideas they didn't have before." His expression didn't change, but his hand tightened around the stem of his wine glass. You're letting your paranoia ruin what we have. What we have? I repeated. What exactly is that, Liam? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he talked off my wine, like liquid could smooth this over. He said, "It's trust, and you're breaking it." I pushed the glass away. "No, I think you've been using it." For a beat, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy, like if I inhaled too deep, it would shatter. Then he smiled, just barely. "You don't actually want to lose me." The worst part, I didn't know if he was wrong. I left his apartment without eating, the photo still burning in my pocket. When I got home, I called Kayla. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me you didn't send me that picture." "What picture?" My stomach sank. "So it wasn't you." "No," she said slowly, "but now I want to see it." I texted it over. A minute later, she replied, "That's from Max's girlfriend's story. She must have deleted it, but I guess someone saved it." "Why would they send it to me?" I asked. "Maybe to make it look like you and Liam are more than you are." I sat back, staring at the ceiling. "Or maybe to make me wonder if we are." Kayla hesitated. "Are you?" I almost hung up. "No," I said finally, "but it's getting harder to explain why not." She sighed. "Babe, I think he likes it that way." The next few days were a blur of half answers and forced smiles. Liam texted like nothing had happened. Funny memes, thinking of you notes, casual invites. I answered less and less, but every time my phone buzzed, a part of me still hoped it was him. That dependency felt ugly in my mouth, like I'd been chewing tinfoil. By Thursday, I couldn't take the limbo anymore. I decided to confront him with proof, something undeniable, something he couldn't just talk around. I reached out to Max's girlfriend, the one who'd originally posted the picture. She was hesitant at first, but eventually she agreed to meet for coffee. She said, "I didn't think it was a big deal. You guys were laughing. He had his hand on your waist. It looked friendly." "And the caption?" I pressed. She bit her lip. "That wasn't mine. I just posted the photo. Somebody else must have screenshotted it and added that." "Who?" She hesitated again, then pulled out her phone. "Look, I shouldn't be showing you this, but..." She scrolled to a DM. My breath caught. It was from Liam. "Hey, that shot of me and my name is great. Mind if I grab it? Might use it for a joke later." The timestamp was from the day after the party. I felt my pulse in my ears. "A joke?" She shrugged helplessly. "I didn't think it was weird, but if you're saying..." I didn't wait for her to finish. I thanked her and left. The coffee barely touched. That night, I sat on my couch staring at that DM screenshot. It wasn't proof of anything physical, but it was proof that Liam had pulled the image into his own arsenal, proof that he was at least curating how people saw us. I sent it to him without comment. He replied instantly. "Wow, so now you're spying on my conversations with people?" I typed, "Why did you want that picture?" "Because we looked good, and because I knew you'd overreact if someone else controlled the narrative." That word, narrative, sat in my stomach like lead. I didn't answer. The next day, he showed up at my apartment unannounced. He said, "We're not doing this over text," pushing past me before I could stop him. I said, "You need to leave." He said, "No, you need to listen. You're letting them isolate you from me." I actually laughed. "That's rich." He said, "I'm serious. Stepping closer. Without me, you have what, Kayla? Ben, who already left? Half a friend group that barely knows you without me in the picture? Do you think they'll stick around if I'm gone?" The words landed harder than I wanted them to, because I'd been thinking the same thing in the quiet moments. "You've built your whole social life on my connections," he continued, softer now. "That's not manipulation, that's protection, and you know it." I hate that some part of me wanted to believe him, that it would be easier than dismantling whatever this had become. He reached out, touched my arm. "Don't throw away the one person who's always been in your corner." I pulled back. Maybe I need to see who's in my corner without you blocking the view. His expression flickered just for a second into something sharp, cold. Then it was gone, replaced by that easy smile. Careful what you wish for. He left without another word. For the rest of the day, my phone stayed silent. No memes, no check-ins, no goodnight texts. The absence felt heavier than I wanted to admit. That night, Kayla texted, "You free? Need to tell you something." We met at a dim little bar near her place. She looked uneasy, glancing around like she expected Liam to walk in. "Okay, don't freak out," she said, "but I think he's already making moves." "Moves?" She lowered her voice. "With Ben." My laugh was automatic, but it came out hollow. "No, that's ridiculous." She shook her head. "No, I've got a friend who saw them together, last night at the docks, having drinks, just the two of them." I tried to find a reasonable explanation. I couldn't. "Why would Ben—" I started, but Kayla cut me off. "I don't know, but maybe it's not about Ben. Maybe it's about you."
I stared at Ben's text like it was written in another language. "I think Liam's told you something about me, and you need to hear the truth from me first." First? First before what? Before Liam spun it deeper? Before someone else sent me another screenshot or video? I typed back, "When?" He replied almost immediately, "Now, if you can." 5 minutes later, I was in an Uber headed to his place. I didn't think about what I'd say. I didn't think about how weird it was to be seeing him again after everything. I just knew I needed to hear his version before Liam filled in the blanks for me, because Liam would. Ben buzzed me in without meeting me at the door, like he didn't want to give me time to change my mind. When I got up to his apartment, he was sitting at the kitchen table with 2 mugs of tea, looking like he'd aged 6 months in the last 6 weeks. "I'm not going to drag this out," he said. "But before you hear it from anyone else, yes, Liam and I met up twice." I sat down slowly. "When?" The first time was right after we broke up. He said he wanted to clear the air between us. The second time was last night. The word "last" landed like a drop of ink in water, spreading dark, fast. "Why?" Ben rubbed his temple. "Because he told me you were confused, that you were struggling without him around, that you might be telling people I mistreated you, and he wanted to help me get ahead of it." My stomach turned. "I never said that." "I know," Ben said quickly. "That's why I wanted to tell you, because he's framing this whole narrative where I'm the bad guy and he's your savior. And if he's telling me that, I can only imagine what he's telling you about me. He's been saying you didn't trust me, that you tried to control who I could be friends with, which, let's be honest, was partly true, but not the way he's spinning it. I wasn't trying to control you. I was trying to warn you about him." We sat there in a silence that felt like it belonged to someone else's life. "I didn't want to believe it," I said finally, "because if I believed it, it meant I'd been played." Ben finished. "Look, I'm not here to rub it in, but I think you need to decide whether Liam is just overprotective or if he's actively sabotaging your relationships, romantic or otherwise." I left without finishing the tea. My head was buzzing too loud to focus on anything except the image of Liam and Ben sitting across from each other, trading my name like a playing card. By the time I got home, my phone was lighting up. 3 missed calls from Liam, 2 texts. "Heard you were with Ben. Hope he didn't get in your head too much. Call me so we can talk about it before you jump to conclusions." That last one, "before you jump to conclusions," was exactly the kind of leash he'd always kept me on. I put my phone face down and went to shower, hoping the steam would clear my head. It didn't. When I came back, there was a knock at the door. My stomach sank before I even looked through the peephole. Liam. He was holding 2 takeout bags like it was any other Thursday night. "Thought you might not have eaten," he said, stepping in before I could invite him. I stayed by the door. "We need to talk." "About your little coffee date with Ben?"
He set the food on my counter like he owned the space. I told you I was struggling. I told you I might be lying about him. Why? His brows lifted in mock offense. Because I knew he would try to spin things, and I wanted him to know I wasn't buying it, that I had your back. That's not having my back, Liam. That's speaking for me. That's making me look unstable. He stepped closer. Unstable to who? To a guy who already walked out on you? Why do you even care what he thinks? Because I care about the truth. That made him laugh, short and sharp. Truth is just whatever people believe first. I'm making sure they believe the right version. Your version, I said. His smile thinned. Our version. You and me against everyone else. That's how it's always been. You really want to start second-guessing that now? I didn't answer. My silence seemed to irritate him more than anything I could have said. Fine, he said, backing up. If you want to test what it's like without me, go ahead. But don't come running when they turn on you. Because they will. They always do. He left the takeout on the counter and walked out without another word. For the rest of the night, I told myself I wouldn't text him. I'd cut him off cold. But at 2 a.m., lying in the dark, I picked up my phone, not to text him, but to scroll through my messages with everyone else. Kayla, Max, Tasha, Ben. And that's when I saw it. Messages from Max, months apart, that I somehow missed at the time. Casual invites, check-ins, but I'd never seen them because they were marked as read already. The only way that could have happened is if someone had gone through my phone. I racked my brain. The unlocked moments, times I'd left my bag at the table, nights Liam had borrowed my phone to queue up a song or call an Uber. A cold wave rolled through me. If he'd been in my messages, he could have deleted replies too. Could have made it look like no one was reaching out. Could have been pruning my whole social life without me even knowing. I barely slept. The next morning, I called Kayla. I think he's been in my phone, I said without preamble. Her inhale was sharp. I wouldn't be surprised. He's done that before. What? Not to me, to his ex. She told me he used to check her texts when she was in the shower. Said it was to protect her from people who didn't have her best interests. It felt like a confirmation and a gut punch rolled into one. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because you wouldn't have believed me, she said simply. But maybe now. A knock at my door cut her off. Hang on, I said, crossing the apartment. When I opened it, no one was there. Just a small padded envelope on the mat. My name, no return address. I brought it inside, my hands shaking as I tore it open. Inside was a single Polaroid. Me, on my couch, asleep. And in the blurry background, just barely in frame, a figure sitting in my armchair. Liam.
The burner phone was cheap, light, and somehow the heaviest thing I'd ever held. On the lock screen, Ben's name above a gray bubble. So, did she take the bait yet? I kept telling myself there had to be another Ben, or a wrong number, a prank. Then I swiped. No passcode. 3 short threads. One was dates and times, my dates and times. When I left parties, when I cried, when I didn't answer calls. Liam's updates, Ben's terse replies, a month-long play-by-play of me like I was a neighborhood weather report. Liam, she's starting to crack. Kayla's doing the heavy lifting without knowing it. Ben, I don't want her hurt. This was about showing her what he's like, not ruining her. Liam, you can't ruin someone who doesn't have anyone else to fall back on. And then, 2 days ago, Liam, when she finds this phone, she'll come to me. She always does. The refrigerator hummed. The apartment gave back my heartbeat. I set the phone down like it might sprout peeth, then picked it up again because I couldn't not. It smelled faintly like someone else's pocket. I called Kayla. Come over, now. I didn't hear what she said next because somewhere deeper in my apartment, a latch whispered. Not the front door, my bedroom window. A slow, patient squeak, like a yawn. Hello? I said to nobody and hated how small I sounded. My phone vibrated.
A text from an unknown number. A photo popped up. The back of my head right now, hair messy, phone to my ear. Angle from the fire escape. Caption, "Don't scare so easy, trouble." I spun, slammed the window, dragged the lock with both hands. The glass sang. Kayla was shouting in my ear, "Call the cops, I'm 5 minutes out." I did both. The dispatcher put me on hold after I said ex-friend and has a key, because I guess that's not a siren word. Kayla got to me faster. She took the stairs 2 at a time and charged into the apartment like she expected to tackle a ghost. I shoved the burner phone at her. She read, went white. "Okay, we're changing your locks. We're packing a bag. You're not sleeping here tonight." We were mid-bag when a knock sounded at the door. 3 light taps like a knock politely clearing its throat. Kayla mouthed, "Don't." Another knock, then Liam's voice through wood, warm as a smile. "I think you have something of mine." Kayla's eyes flashed. "We're not opening," she said, loud enough for anyone in the hall to hear. "Leave." He laughed, familiar and awful. "You can call whoever you want, but they'll tell you there's nothing illegal about a friend checking in." "Friends don't climb fire escapes," I said. "Then why do you keep leaving the window unlocked?" The line went dead inside me. Habit. That was all. I'd always liked the night air. I pressed my palm to the pee hole. He wasn't in view. He was standing just to the side, so I'd have to open to see him. Of course he was. Sirens. Then a building echo. For once I was relieved by bureaucracy. The cops took statements like they were receiving mail. They told me to swap the lock and keep records. "Do you feel safe?" they asked. "Bored?" I said, "No, but I feel documented." By evening, the new deadbolt was in. Kayla ordered pizza and sat cross-legged on my rug, fielding the group chat like a goalie. It was lighting up with pings, Liam tossing in old photos of us and captions about loyalty, Tasha posting a yikes reaction, then unreacting it, Max going offline the second I DM'd him, which felt like a choice. I didn't answer any of it. Responding is how you get pulled back into the narrative. Liam taught me that ironically. I texted Ben, "Found a phone in my kitchen. It has your name all over it." For a minute long nothing, then, "I'm coming over. We should end this the right way." Kayla said, "I don't like that. Tell him no." But I wanted a straight line in a maze of circles. I wanted a witness. When Ben knocked, Kayla opened the door only as far as the chain and kept her foot in the jam like a bouncer. He looked wrecked, shirt wrinkled, eyes ringed. "I didn't know about the phone," he said first, before hello. "I mean, I knew he was collecting things. I didn't know he'd plant something in your place." "So you knew," Kayla said, flatly, "just not the brand of the knife." He rubbed his face. I thought, stupidly, that if I kept talking to him, I could blunt it, steer it. "He said you were spiraling, and He looked at me. "I didn't want you to implode in private." I said, "Congratulations. You gave me front row tickets to my own implosion." He nodded like he deserved it. Maybe he did. He stepped back to the hall rail. "There's something else. You should hear it from me, not a screenshot." I braced. He swallowed. "Liam and I have been seeing each other." Silence peeled the paint. Kayla's mouth opened, then closed. I felt every word in my body like an impact, tiny and accurate. It didn't compute at first. I kept trying to fit it into old shapes. Enemies, rivals, straight lines. It wouldn't fit. "For how long?" I asked. The quiet in my voice scared me. He said, "Since after the breakup, but there were..." He searched for a word that wouldn't make me set something on fire. He didn't find it. Ben's eyes flicked to Kayla like he couldn't say it to me. He said he'd always thought you misunderstood you, that we had that in common. Kayla stepped between us like a line judge. "You're telling her you and Liam are together for her? That's the story?" Ben flushed. "No, I'm telling her because whatever this is, it's going to go public. He wants to soft launch us, and I didn't want her to soft launch," I repeated, because sometimes the only way to keep from crying is to taste the ridiculous words out loud. Ben flinched. "I'm sorry." Liam texted at that exact second as if he had a mic on the scene. A close friend's story tag hit my screen. A boomerang of 2 coffee cups clinking on a patio, a hand I recognized by the scar on the knuckle resting over another. Caption,
Finally with someone who gets loyalty. Green circle glow. Public enough to sting, private enough to feel intimate. The algorithm of humiliation. Kayla swore. Ben looked at his phone, then at me. I told him to wait. Oh, he's waited, I said. My voice sounded like someone else's, calm, almost bored. He waited while he studied my voice notes and forwarded my moods and sat in my armchair while I slept. He waited until I didn't have anyone left to tell. Kayla put a hand on my back that felt like scaffolding. She said, "You have me." My apartment suddenly looked enormous and barren. Boxes where books had been, nail holes freckling the paint, the bar cart we never assembled properly listing to one side, a stage after the show, the downfall symbol I used to make fun of in therapy worksheets, describe the image that represents loss. It was this. It was exactly this. "I'm leaving," I said. "Tonight." Ben swallowed. "Do you want help?" Kayla said, "No." At the exact same time I said, "No." For different reasons, probably. He nodded. "I'll tell him to back off. Like he still had pull he could use for good. Like the flood could be negotiated with." By midnight, my life was in 3 suitcases and a laundry bag. I took the Polaroid and slipped it into the bottom of a box, face down, as if I could put weight on a memory and make it stay put. I left the cheap burner phone on the counter, on purpose, like a trap for a ghost. On my way out, I stood in the doorway and tried to feel sad. I felt corrected, as if the story had snapped into the shape it had always wanted. The girl who defended the wrong person ends up alone in an apartment, so quiet even the fridge is embarrassed for her. The friend who said he'd keep her out of trouble finds loyalty with her ex. That's not irony, that's math. Kayla drove. We didn't talk. At her place, she made tea we didn't drink. I took the couch. She took the obligation of checking the lock twice. I stared at the ceiling and promised myself I'd sleep. At 2:13 a.m., the night decided it wasn't done. My phone buzzed across my ribs. Unknown number. A photo. Their faces, finally. Liam and Ben together at the Riverwalk, city lights laddering the water behind them, Liam kissing Ben's temple, eyes on the lens, Ben not looking away. This time. Caption, "No hard feelings trouble. Doors stay open for loyal people." I put the phone face down like a lid. Kayla turned over in the armchair and mumbled, "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied, staring at the ceiling cracks that looked like fault lines. I started to type "lose my number" and deleted it. I typed "you win" and deleted that too. Then I did the smallest, bravest thing I could think of. Nothing. I let silence be the last word. Morning came gray and thin. We loaded into her car to fetch the last essentials from my place, the documents I'd left, the mug I loved for no good reason. When we turned onto my block, my stomach already knew something my eyes hadn't told me yet. The door to my apartment stood open, not just unlocked, propped, like a mouth mid-sentence. And from the hall, floating light like confetti, came a chorus of voices I knew too well. Laughter, toasts, someone clapping to get attention. A familiar baritone rose above the rest, Liam performing ease. He said, "To loyalty and fresh starts." Ben's laugh followed, quiet but close. Kayla put the car in park so hard the steering wheel shook. She said, "Do not go up there." But I was already out of the car, keys in a fist I didn't need anymore, walking toward my own open door and the sound of my life being rehearsed without me.